1942. A German U-boat vanished in the Atlantic, never seen again. In the dark spring of 1942, when the Battle of the Atlantic raged at its height, German U-boats prowled the ocean like steel predators. Among them was U-boat U-300, its number now obscured by history. A long, narrow vessel crewed by 50 men. She carried torpedoes and provisions for weeks at sea. Her orders whispered from Berlin: disrupt Allied convoys, strike fast, vanish deeper. The submarine left its French port under moonless skies, slipping silently past breakwaters, engines rumbling low. Above, the Atlantic rolled black and endless. Below deck, men worked in cramped quarters, charts pinned to bulkheads, diesel fumes heavy in the air, bunks stacked 3 high. They were young, many barely 20, hardened by training but untested in the abyss they entered. Reports placed the vessel near the convoy routes east of Newfoundland. Allied escorts had tightened their nets, hunting with sonar and depth charges, yet the U-boat moved unseen. Days passed, then weeks. Signals were expected, coded messages confirming patrols and kills, but no reply ever came. Berlin sent inquiries. Allied records showed nothing certain. Some claimed a destroyer might have struck it, yet no wreckage was reported. Others said a sudden storm could have dragged her under, or a mechanical failure sealed her fate. Families in Germany received only silence, the kind that deepens rather than ends grief. The Atlantic, vast and merciless, had claimed another vessel. But in this case, no debris, no oil slick, no bodies floated to tell the tale. The U-boat had simply slipped beneath and vanished. As days turned to weeks, the absence of signals from the missing U-boat grew harder to explain. German command, accustomed to regular coded transmissions, received only static. Operators tapped their receivers through long nights, waiting for the familiar click of enigma, but the ether remained mute. In the Atlantic War, silence was as deadly as depth charges. Allied convoys reported nothing certain. One British escort logged a sonar contact off the Grand Banks, a fleeting shadow beneath the waves, lost before depth charges could be dropped. Another ship claimed to see an oil slick at dawn, but it dissipated within hours, leaving no wreckage to mark a kill. To the men who sailed those waters, the sea itself seemed complicit, swallowing both predator and evidence. Families in Germany received official notices, stamped with the word "vermisst," missing. Mothers clutched black-edged telegrams. Wives stared at empty chairs. Children were told their fathers were serving far away. But all knew what silence meant. In the U-boat war, when a vessel failed to return, it seldom returned at all. Still, whispers spread among sailors. Some swore the missing submarine had not been destroyed, but had slipped beyond patrol zones, wandering into the deep Atlantic trenches where no sonar reached. A few even claimed to hear phantom tapping through their own hulls at night, patterns like Morse, too faint to trace. The silence around the U-boat was heavier than loss. It became a void into which speculation poured, growing darker with each unanswered signal. The Atlantic had not just claimed a ship, it had erased its existence, leaving nothing but rumor and unease in its place. In the months after its disappearance, the missing U-boat became a ghost beneath the Atlantic. Allied patrols continued to report strange contacts, sonar echoes that appeared briefly, then dissolved into static, as if the sea itself had swallowed them. Crews grew uneasy. They spoke of metallic reverberations carried through hulls, like distant hammering beneath the waves. Some swore it sounded like Morse code, faint and irregular, as though a lost crew still tapped from the abyss. One British destroyer recorded a chilling incident. In the mid-Atlantic, the sonar picked up a slow, steady beat. The operator, convinced it was mechanical, urged the captain to fire depth charges. Yet before the order could be given, the echo ceased, replaced by silence so absolute it unnerved the men more than any contact. Days later, the same destroyer reported another phantom signal, this time deeper, slower, as if receding beyond reach. German survivors of other U-boat patrols whispered similar tales. They claimed to hear tapping in the night, vibrations along the steel, like voices calling through water. Whether imagination or truth, the effect was the same. The missing submarine had become a legend, feared and mourned alike. In port taverns, sailors told of seeing a periscope where no U-boat could be, or of dark shapes sliding beneath convoys only to vanish when hunted. To some, the lost vessel had become more than wreckage. It was a phantom U-boat, forever patrolling, its crew condemned to an endless mission beneath the sea. The Atlantic, already a graveyard of steel, now held a ghost whose silence was broken only by echoes no one could trace. As months turned to years, speculation about the missing U-boat grew into a catalogue of theories. Naval historians argued that the submarine likely fell victim to Allied depth charges. Yet no logs confirmed such a kill, and no wreckage surfaced. Others suggested catastrophic failure. A valve jammed, batteries vented chlorine gas, or a torpedo malfunctioned and detonated within the hull. In such cases, the sea rarely returns fragments, only silence. Another theory claimed the boat had strayed too far west into the great mid-Atlantic trenches. A single crack in the pressure hull, and the vessel would have imploded in an instant, leaving nothing but scattered dust drifting into the abyss. Some believed storms had claimed her, forcing her below crushed depth as waves pounded from above. Yet stranger ideas emerged. Sailors whispered that the boat had slipped into a blind zone of the ocean, regions where compasses falter and radios fail. A few insisted the submarine was still moving, sustained by currents, its crew long dead, a steel coffin wandering aimlessly beneath the sea. Allied patrols reporting phantom sonar echoes only strengthened the tale. In Germany, the loss became shrouded in official vagueness. Records were sealed, families told little beyond the word verloren. Lost. In secrecy, some wondered whether the boat had been carrying experimental cargo or coded orders too sensitive to admit. Its vanishing, then, was not only tragedy, but convenience. But in the North Atlantic, where sailors watched horizons with wary eyes, the explanation mattered less than the fear. A predator had disappeared, but its shadow remained, lingering in every sonar echo and every ripple of dark water. When the war ended in 1945, records of sunken submarines were compared between Allies and Germany in hopes of clarity. Hundreds of U-boats had been destroyed, their wrecks charted on sea maps, but among them, the missing vessel's fate remained unlisted. Allied kill claims never matched its disappearance, and German archives offered no final report. In official summaries, it was a blank line: missing, presumed lost. For the families, this lack of closure deepened the wound. Survivors of other crews returned home gaunt and silent, but at least they returned. Wives of the lost stood on train platforms that never delivered, clutching medals sent in sealed envelopes, their husbands' names already carved onto memorial stones. Children grew up with shadows instead of fathers, their stories ending not with heroism or defeat, but with absence. Among sailors, the tale spread further. They whispered that the boat still prowled, its engines stilled but its hull drifting beneath shipping lanes. Some claimed to glimpse its periscope at dusk, vanishing before escorts could react. Others spoke of ghostly radar pings, faint outlines moving through storms as if the U-boat had become part of the sea itself. Historians debated the case in post-war years, but no new evidence surfaced. The submarine existed only in records of departure, never of return. It was as though it had stepped out of history mid-voyage, erased not by battle, but by the ocean's will. The missing U-boat was not the only vessel to vanish in the Atlantic, but it became emblematic, a symbol of how war devours not only men, but memory, leaving questions heavier than wreckage. Decades after the war, rumors of the missing U-boat continued to surface like flotsam on the tide. Fishermen off Newfoundland reported snagging nets on unseen steel far below. Divers in the Azores swore they glimpsed a corroded conning tower half buried in sand, though no coordinates were ever confirmed. Even in the 1960s, Allied sonar sweeps picked up unidentified wrecks, only to dismiss them as geological formations when no evidence followed. Each new report sparked a flurry of speculation. Was this the lost boat at last, lying silent in the abyss? Expeditions launched to investigate, but storms and funding often forced them back. Those that reached the sites found nothing conclusive. Rusted fragments of unknown vessels, but never the hull that carried 50 men into silence. Some researchers proposed that the submarine had drifted into deeper waters than technology could reach. Others argued it still lay near convoy lanes, undiscovered because it was mistaken for one of the countless other wrecks that litter the Atlantic floor. A few clung to more fanciful notions that the U-boat had crossed into another current, carried endlessly across oceans, a steel coffin adrift with no grave. For the families, false leads reopened old wounds. Every headline promising discovery dissolved into disappointment. Sons grown old waited for fathers who never returned. Daughters laid flowers on memorials that held no remains. The submarine existed only as rumor. Found, then lost again, each time swallowed by the Atlantic's refusal to yield its dead. The longer the mystery endured, the more it became untouchable. The U-boat was no longer just a vessel. It was a riddle, an echo of war forever unresolved. Today, the missing U-boat lingers less as a vessel and more as a story. Maritime maps chart wrecks across the Atlantic, yet its name is still followed by a blank. No conclusive discovery has ever been made, And so the submarine drifts on in imagination. Sailors crossing the North Atlantic still speak of shadows beneath waves, dark shapes sliding silently past sonar, gone before a bearing can be fixed. Legends abound. Some call it a ghost boat, condemned to patrol forever with a dead crew at its posts, engines silent, torpedoes rusting in tubes. Others insist that it is not ghostly at all, but merely undiscovered, its steel hull resting intact on the seabed, waiting for divers brave enough or unlucky enough to stumble upon it. In ports from Reykjavik to Halifax, tavern stories keep it alive. A fisherman may lean close and whisper that he once saw a periscope rise where no U-boat could be. A naval officer may recall sonar echoes that traced a submarine's shape, only to vanish when depth charges fell. These accounts, unverified and unprovable, ensure the boat never fades. For the families, time brought no closure. Graves remain empty, memorials anonymous. The crew's names are etched in stone, but their bodies lie somewhere in the Atlantic. If they lie anywhere at all. The sea has a way of holding its secrets, and this secret has lasted 80 years. The U-boat remains less a machine than a haunting, a relic of war transformed into legend. It is a reminder that silence can be louder than any battle. Beneath the Atlantic swells, perhaps still, it waits. Steel turned phantom, memory turned myth.